This is Melissa, and it is Real History. And the day that this is going up is the 19th of June, 2025. And I am joined today by Sigrida, or as she's known to people who have a hard time pronouncing her name, Siggy. But I'm going to try Sigrida a little bit and see how that works until she says, no, that's not how you say it. So, Sigrida is today, which is actually the 28th of May in Lithuania, which is where she is from. This is her home, but she's embarking on a trip tomorrow, which is why we wanted to get this long talked about real history recorded today. So, hello, how are you?
Hi, Melissa. Nice to finally get in touch with you one-on-one. We've exchanged some emails before, and yeah, this was pending, and the time has come.
Yes.
So now,
It's very funny, I have to say, just before we started recording, because we haven't spoken very long, although we've had a lot of email back and forth, but Sigrida asked me, how long do we have to record? And I said, oh, at least an hour and a half, whatever's on your mind. And she told me that she'd been thinking about this real history for over a year, and she would write down notes on a Word document and just, from time to time, oh, we could talk about this or I could mention that. And she said she checked it just the other day, and it's now like a diary. It's 50 pages long. So she's not referring to the Word document. We're just going to wing it. But this is so great. It was just perfect timing because I had said to her, yes, I want to record this while you're here before you take off on your trip. And then I got busy. And I got an email from her a couple of days ago saying, well, I guess we're not going to get it done this time. And I'm like, boom, okay, let's do it. So, and
yeah,
you were a good sport to just dive in and do this. So, how are you?
a little anxious, you know, because I'm not used to. I've never done an interview before, and my English is. I'm gonna practice it now in the following months, but up till this point, I only wrote and I read and I think in my head in English, if you can believe that. Sometimes in dreams as well. But when the time comes to speak, I forget even the basic words, and a little bit makes me, and even the thoughts, too much stuff
Oh,
goes.
well, you're doing great. So don't be anxious, don't be nervous. You're doing great. So you were in Lithuania. That's where you're born and raised and your family is, but you're taking off on a trip tomorrow. Do you want to tell us where you're going and how long you'll be gone and what that's about?
Yeah, maybe the trip sounds. It's not. It's actually for work. It's not for pleasure. In a way, it is also for pleasure because I'm gonna be meeting the people that. I mean, probably the only friends I have left are abroad, where I spend a lot of my time in recent years. It was in Switzerland. So I'm going to Switzerland back there. And I used to work on the organic farms. And I'm going in this particular place where I've just made a break, maybe 1 year and a half. I made a break where I was not going for work abroad and for many reasons. And I've stayed here in Lithuania. And now things came up. Uh, One of the reasons is financial also. So I'm going there to work for you know replenishing my bank account and also to meet my friends. And I actually what I do I quite enjoy there spending my time, and so I'm going there for 4 months this time. It's a short time. I used to spend way more, maybe half year, or 8 years, 8 months. I'm sorry.
How long have you been doing this work?
It started in 2017, I think. It's been at least I've done 7 seasons since then, and this would be like eighth time that I would go. I've skipped a year and a half because I never go on the. It's a seasonal job, so I never go on. You could stay there all year, but it's usually less work, and I don't need that. I don't need to stay through the winter for myself. I use that time. I used to use that time at least to travel somewhere. I earn money and I have free time. I can go back to my country, relax a little bit at home, spend time with family, and I can plan a little trip somewhere, see the world a little bit. This is how it went for a good 7 years.
Hmm.
Was Yeah, so I started in 2017. After I graduated my bachelor, I immediately next day I ventured off for a couple of months as a start, which before that I never imagined that I would go abroad for work. It was I the background where I come from, we never had money for these kind of things to travel, and my country is not so many years an independent country. But so the notion of going abroad was exotic, and if anybody made it out, interesting things to listen to. What did you see? You go to Egypt. Wow, you bring delights. It was all, little by little. Now it became like the tourism is a major economy bringer in some countries. So it's the same here in Lithuania. People travel. It's not a big. You cannot surprise anyone anymore.
Hmm.
Maybe with destination, yes, but not by the fact that you can allow yourself traveling. Basically, everyone does that. So yeah. Mm. Did I forget to mention something? I'm wondering.
No, what I wanted to know is what kind of gardening do you do? What is your job? Does it rotate to do different things, or do you have specific tasks that you do the same thing when you're working at the garden?
When I finished studies, I was so sick of academic background, like environment, sitting on the chair, behind that table and listening to lectures. Even though I enjoyed my studies, but it was too much, for, did I do three? I did 3 years, and it was enough. I wanted to do something physical. So when my friend approached me and told about this cool place, to go for a couple of months in summer, you earn good money and just whatever. I didn't care about that part too much. I thought it's good to earn money, but I just need something completely different. Like I need to go physical, like just work hard, get my hands in the dirt. Just you see, it's weeding job. All right, I'll have it. And so I got set up with the contacts, and I didn't know where I was going too much. I thought I will be sleeping in a tent or something. I just didn't know too much about the conditions or contracts and whatever. And I thought, oh, Switzerland, new place, good for me, anything. So as I was on the day of when we defend our for diploma, as soon as I got ticked off, I'm like, adios. The next day, I went off into the new country and started this job. It was something new in Switzerland back then as well. Maybe if some Swiss people are listening, they know the word. I think I'm not pronouncing it good. Loya today or something like that. It's very specific Swiss word. It's not even German. Very Swiss word. And basically what it is, it's translates as weeding. I think that's what it means.
Weaving?
Weeding. Weeding the
Weeding.
grass.
Oh,
Yeah.
weeding. Okay.
And in Switzerland, there is a lot of organic farming going on. And for that, they use people. And either there are many like companies and they have their own fields and they have workers in the grow fields around the fabric and they do production inside, and they don't spare so much manpower outside, only when it's necessary. But if they can rent someone to do the same for them, they do that, if they can afford it. So the company, let's say it started small, the one that I went to started small, like, a group of people doing for small farmers here and there, connections, calling each other, giving feedback, that's it's a good they do a good job, and it actually grew in the first 3 years. It grew really, really fast, and like 30 people, and then 50, and then by the end, I was like by the like fifth season I came, it was already 100 people there
Wow.
in the company, and we would how it works that we get into the let's say customer farmer calls in and says, I'm planting this and that, in advance. Of course, they need to make these reservations in advance, but they know already what they're planting, by months and everything. And more or less in estimation, they can like say there will be a carrot field, this and this big, um, there will be some weeding needed, maybe, 2 times or three, usually at least 2 times when the carrots are really small and when they get a little bit bigger because the weeds are catching up. When you don't spray, yeah, and this is only for organic ones, but
Hmm.
on rare occasions, sometimes we get called also for the non-organic fields as well to take care of them because let's say if they sprayed and it rained unexpectedly, it neutralizes most of uh,
Hmm.
um, the
Hmm.
substance, and then the weeds just they're too big to kill, and they grow really. They're excited to do that. So this was our job, and with 100 people in the company, we had lots of cars. We were stationed in one insignificant area, I'd say, really, in Bern, Canton Bern area, really close to Bern, maybe 10 kilometers, not even 10 kilometers away. Maybe somebody knows Aarberg. It's where one of the two sugar fabrics is of Switzerland. So it would always smelled like the air was sweet in the during autumn season when the harvest begins and when they start processing it. So the whole area just has this cold but sweet smell in the air, no matter where you go. So maybe somebody knows, maybe somebody's even from Arctic or around. So
What do
we,
they, just out of curiosity and aside there, what the sugar, what plant are they getting it from? Is it beets or?
yeah, it's beets, and it's most surely it's non-organic because
Mhm.
it's you cannot grow it without the weeds are too much, and it's not efficient if you because the sugar is not that expensive. It's also subsidized for that
Hmm.
reason,
Hmm.
loads by the government, and the weeds grow a lot, and they get sick, and they need to put lots of material to eventually get that big peat.
Yeah.
And if they would be renting us to do in biological way, to organic way to take it out, my manpower, then it would add up so much that the cost of sugar would skyrocket really. So they don't do that, and it's not organic. And but it's an interesting process. I spent one day just following the whole route, how it begins. It's always interesting. When I started this, I got hooked up, let's say, because it's Switzerland. There were so many interesting things I didn't know. I didn't see this kind of farming in my country. It was old fashioned. If we harvest potatoes, we did it by hand. We gather people, we call our neighbors, we call our relatives. Everybody goes there in the field, does it like this. We didn't do weeding, but if we had bugs that attack potatoes, for example, specifically, we would do it by hand, and put them in the bottle, and from time to time. So, and when I went to Switzerland, it's all these machineries and all these like different philosophies I'm growing in different categories, and also the farms were interesting in it themselves, especially if you go to small farmers. Yeah,
So, sorry,
lots of
sorry. I'll be right back. I want to back up just a little bit and find out what you got your bachelor's degree in. and what your parents were doing and did they farm because you've got the experience with the potatoes and stuff. So I just wanted to get a little bit of the background of family
Okay,
and education.
I give you the background. So I am from Lithuania, and usually nobody knows where the hell is this country. Like it's I think they in UK at some like at least a decade ago probably they made an anthem and some sort of song where they were it was an anthem for Europe, I think, and it was very um, um not sarcastic, probably something else. I forget the word, but so they were describing and putting a line in each country, and for us, for Lithuania, it was with where the F it is, you know, eventually. And if somebody Googles it, they might maybe they know the fact that it's called the G spot of Europe. Some people say it's like geological center of Europe. We have a next to our capital, a few kilometers away, there is a park where they put a pyramid and they say this is the spot, like this is where the center of Europe is, but still nobody knows where Lithuania is. Never mind. Some people think we're still part of Russia, you know. And like only our close neighbors, our brother Baltic states and Polish people and probably Belarus and Ukrainians, they know where Lithuania is. But I was very surprised when I started traveling around Europe that I talk with so many, even young people and from educated countries, and they don't know where Lithuania is. It was very
Okay, all
weird
right,
because
all right. I'm gonna make a fool out of myself because I don't know exactly where it is, and I didn't look it up. I'm like, I know you're from Lithuania, but I didn't look it up. But okay, there's Baltics. Is it above Ukraine? Is it
yeah,
above Ukraine, kind of on the um, east side of the Baltic?
a little higher.
A little higher. Okay, so where is it? Now that I've done, now I took a stab.
You're forgiven, Melissa. You're from the other side of Atlantic. I would never name any kind of states at all. Just I know some names, but I could not tell where they are, and I know Washington, but I like could not point out where it is and things like that. But Lithuania, you've been in Poland, I think, and,
Yes.
and Lithuania is just another one on the top of it. It's tiny.
Okay. All right.
And funny enough, it looks, if you really look close enough, like the shape of it, it's like a tiny little revolver, like a little tiny one with the cockpit. I think it's curious. Yeah. So this funny thing, but I see at least I think majority of people heard of the most famous Lithuanian in the world, Hannibal,
Yeah.
because he's a Lithuanian. So I will
Now,
say,
is your geography, is the topography, is it like Poland a bit? Do you have
uh,
some of those beautiful mountains, or no?
unfortunately, but it's also in a it's different. It's just different. Yes, we don't have this spectacular, mountains, and we have like we call them hills. We have hills. It's all over the country, like thousands of them, and they are a lot of them are man-made. So
Mm-hmm.
we just have to imagine that Lithuania looked the territory. It was not even Lithuania called back in ages, but the territory looked very different than it is now. It's really cleaned out, but it was mainly, over 90% it was forests and and big rivers. So we still have a lot of water on our lands, rivers and a lot of lakes and a lot of underground water. Like we're blessed with water. So if they take this resource from us, then it's clean and drinkable water. So we're blessed with that. But we used to be blessed with forests as well. And one of the reasons we managed, this is my speculation, we managed to stay, to remain the last pagans of Europe also, because, and to fight off against the Crusaders, the Teutonic Order, and up until 14th century, because we were just covered with vast array of mature forests, and it's very different. The environment is very different. It has like it creates a climate inside, and there were also like a lot of how you call them, swamps.
Hmm.
There were even some major battles happening in the forests, and we would win because we had specific breeds of tiny horses, robust horses that could, maneuver around in the areas that we knew so well, or travel with water lines, and orient ourselves like that, and
That's
connect also with
fascinating.
yeah.
Breeds of tiny horses that could get around the swamps. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
we still have, it's a national breed. Some there are some farms that still maintain the lineage, and yeah, it's cute. Not that they are ponies or any, I guess, but I don't know too much about the horses, so maybe they're ponies. I don't know. They so yeah, the Crusaders started actually cutting down the wood, and building their camps around. So they were getting closer and closer. This is just one aspect of history, it doesn't reflect all, but we build our own fortresses also, mainly from wood, because it was the only material around. And we don't have anything remaining because wood, it's burned down, and there's nothing left after it for future reference and for
Hmm.
future generations to. You just have a hill, on top, and somebody can find by excavations, or hard work in our architect archaeology to discover that there was this and that. And there's many mysteries involved because we also didn't have a writing system of our own for a very long time. There was just a spoken word, and until 16th century actually. So when our rulers started to communicate more with the rest of the Europe, they knew
Hmm.
languages and everything, and they adapted Latin scripture, and there were many things going on in this territory. I think I'm going all over the place.
No, no, it's good. It's good. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know, like the same way, I guess it reminded me a little bit of Alan when I guess he never spoke about Scotland a lot, but whenever you also pointed out when there was something about Scotland that he had this, he, he, he missed it, and there was this connection with his country that he was proud, I guess. But I have the same. If when I go around the world, I really have this a little bit like a spark about it. I like my country. I like that I was born here, and it's
Hmm.
not really significant in any way, but and it's for many Lithuanians, they have this um, deep attachment, like soul attachment to
Hmm.
the land, the
Hmm.
motherland. And sometimes you cannot breathe it out, even if the people had migrated for generations
Hmm.
for to another country, and they have still this something is lurking inside us, like a longing, for the land. So that was my lyrical curvature around this. Um, and
So what?
also me, when I travel, I need to go back. I
Yeah.
always need to, if I work abroad, I always need to, at some point, I feel like I need to go back to recharge myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's a couple of things that you've talked to me about in email that I want to return to about that, about the love of the land and your family and everything. But I wanted to ask a question, which was, what did you study in school?
Oh, yeah.
What did you
We
get your bachelor's in?
I went a long way from that, answering that. Yes, where in the university I studied, because after school I didn't know what I want to do. Like as a career. So I went through everything, through all the, all the programs of all the universities, whatever was available, and nothing stood out to me. And except there was a new program called ecotourism. It was not,
Ah.
yeah, there wasn't a lot of traveling in my life then. I went to Germany, Slovakia, and France. I think by the time I finished school, so I entered the university. I haven't seen a lot of the world, and everything was interesting to me. I thought at least I won't be bored because I like geography, and yeah, it will not be probably won't be a waste of my time completely. I will still find something. Maybe I will adapt it somehow. Maybe I'll be a tour guide or something. Yeah, so I thought I
So
could manage.
that is very interesting. Ecotourism, one of the new degrees. Alan would say that once they've brought all of the countries down, standardized them, flattened them economically, and so forth, all that will be left is tourism. And we are starting to see that now. He would say it even more disparagingly, or sadly, he would say you'll just have people on the side of the road selling the things that are, from their country. And I traveled a bit when I was younger around the US, and I saw that kind of thing with the native tribes. Like you'd go through a Navajo reservation or somewhere, or you'd be in Arizona, it didn't matter. And there literally would be people on the side of the road in some kind of stall or set up there selling their silver that was, mined in the area and then hammered out and worked by the native people. And you just get that more and more now where, you
Yeah,
go someplace and the people are they're so dependent. I mean, that was one of the sad things about the COVID years is that whole countries were just decimated because of the lack of tourism. So,
yeah. And I have many things to say about tourism and ecotourism. It's a branch of sustainable development, sustainable
yeah.
tourism.
But
I
you
learned
didn't
about
you
that
didn't know
later.
that then. So.
And not quite, not quite. I went there because I thought I have to have some sort of degree for the eyes. That was my thinking then, and I didn't want to be that left out in the way. But I also didn't want to feel. I already it was hard for me to finish school. Not that I was doing bad by grades, but mentally it was hard for me to finish school, and everybody was just praying, let her not collapse. May she not collapse. Maybe she can go. If she gets into the university by her own volition, that's just awesome. So I had people in the background cheering for me, and my mother is my biggest supporter. But my God, she doesn't know half of what was going on inside of me in those days. And but getting in, I went to small university. It was very small and not like when you enter, and it's like 150 people in the audience, and you're just a number there, and no personal communication with the professors. Gladly, this program was offered in very convenient spot. It was still in the same town where I live, where we live, and very comfortable in the old town, and tiny. So there was personal communication. I knew, everybody knew each other, so that was nice, and it um, it was easier to go through. Even though by the end I was also still fed up because I saw so many holes in the system in general about like the by preparing my bachelor, everybody just like in the school when you're finishing, they make this big deal about the grades and you will not make it, if you don't, do this and that, and you do excellent and you get tens and tens and tens all the time. I will be bragging right now, but I did good in let's say we have this exam in our native language. We have to prepare a speech in writing and also recitate it. before the jury, and also do that in English. So these are two main exams we have to do. And the rest is optional, math, history, whatever. And I did have higher levels in all these when studying, while being in school. I had all these. You can do A grade and you can do B grade history, let's say, So I was always on, maybe not in history, but like chemistry and biology, these natural sciences, because it interested me. But I never planned to do like go on exams, because I thought it's just way like, why, like destroy my. I just saw everybody, because you can make a decision to do the exam until quite late, the deadlines, and just saw everybody around me freaking out if they get like 9.5, because we have 10 grades system of evaluation, and 10 being the best. And if they get like 9.5, they are like stressed, but what will their parents say? Things like that. And I was always between like 9, 10. Sometimes I would get 8, like mathematics was not my thing. It's just, I studied, I enjoyed school in a way. If I could communicate with my teachers and, ask them stupid questions, and they entertain me with answering, and it would be also interesting for them if somebody is engaging in the class, and even if they ask whatever, like they, I don't know, maybe because of my personality, I still try to be like, I don't know, I'm here in hell, I'll try to make it out, maybe as much as I could. Yeah. Eventually was still everybody is trying to bend you their way, because they still try to make it about the grades, and I didn't really care about it. I also started skipping classes. I was like one of the exceeding, kids there, and I would sometimes just skip the classes because I felt I could not be there anymore. And then I would feel shame, because then everybody wants reasons why, and they invite you, that everybody gets involved. You miss one class, little by little. And it was not, maybe I was undercover for so long, nobody assumed this about me. So I was, but in the last years, really showing that my behavior is changing, and I don't show so much. Maybe I will not make it even if I continue. Yeah. So I think I was going towards the. Yeah, we talked about the tourism. So I went to those studies, and you talked about the tourism in the countries. I guess I will skip something. I wanted to make a point about that too, with the tourism, that in my country, when we joined European Union in 2004, with a fake referendum, which was all rigid. The people decided. It was not like that. I might get back to it if you want, but the thing is that when we went to the European Union, the farmers got subsidized, for not doing, for lessening their activity, basically, because, the plan is that the prices even out. So that's what they say, that it's to keep the prices competitive, you can produce too much of that, everybody, just have to equalize. And eventually it ends up wrecking your economy completely. So the farms, they start to revert to tourism. They don't do much stuff. So they offer, accommodation, or just come there, maybe don't even have animals anymore to show. So just something, maybe growing berries, and they make it all about berries, and you can do whatever you want, taste whatever you want with the berries, things like that, and there are interesting things, of course. It's always worth and interesting to see around, but I used to travel to on the summers. We would go to my grandparents in the countryside, which is just 60 kilometers. I'm sorry, I don't know. I cannot convert it in American system, but
I'm not very good at that either, and I lived in Canada
yeah,
for, 14 years, but I think it's I don't know, maybe 40 miles. I
basically,
suck at it, so I should like.
it's relatively not that far. But on that way, we would get into the car, with my cousins and everything, and a bunch of people. We were resourceful. We didn't never had our own private cars, so we would be resourceful. Everybody gathers and plans on a weekend or longer times, to go to visit my grandparents, and they lived just two of them, and we would just when the summer comes, most of the work needs to be done, weeding, taking
Hmm.
care around
Hmm.
the premise, and lots of they still had some cows and pigs and chicken, but they were just two of them, and they were old. So, but what I mean is that on the way, e- either side, my cousin would watch one side and I would watch the other side, and we would count the cows and uh, and the horses, and by the end that we see on the way, and by the end when we reach it, the farm, and we would, see which one wins, kind of, who had more on their side. It was very exciting. And for years since my childhood, this was um, our joy-free play, a game that we did. And now, after years, after especially the joining the European Union, and it was getting less and less and less. Even the fields, they used to be colorful on either side. They used to be colorful. Everything was growing there. And now it's just mostly yellow because it's the rape. It's the rapeseed.
Hmm. Hmm. It's
Yeah, canola.
industrial oil.
It's canola.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And and what else? Just some very
yeah,
basic crop going on. Nothing
yeah,
much. I
yeah.
actually don't see cows on either side.
Yeah,
This is
it's the things instead of having the fats that are healthy and good for you, it's the seed oils that, make people suffer in very many ways health wise. That we don't even know about it, they don't talk about it, but yeah.
no. And
Yeah.
I will come out, Melissa, at some point. I was a vegetarian shortly. I did get brainwashed for a short period of time, but I got reset with my own logic, thankfully. In the end, I don't know how I got brainwashed like this. It's a funny story, but it's a long one anyway. But I did for 4 years did vegetarianism, and yeah, I learned stuff about my genetics. At least I know probably for most of the northern region, animal um, animal products is very important, and I could talk a lot about it, actually a lot. Yeah. And the thing is that in my country, but I know you have vegetarian listeners. I hope they don't come after you.
No,
For
I was raised a vegetarian. My folks,
oh,
yeah, 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 yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, I used to tell people that, oh yeah, I was abused. We didn't have the smell of bacon in my house when I was growing up. There was no bacon cooking. It's a terrible abuse. But yeah, they thought that that was healthier. And they weren't hippies. It was just something
Yeah.
that they thought was a healthier lifestyle choice. And so, immediately my first act of rebellion was going over to the next town and getting a cheeseburger. So that's,
Is
yeah.
This is when you turned 18 or something? Like, when did you get to try
Oh
the new?
no, goodness. I had a car when I was 15. I had a car before I was allowed to drive. That was freedom for me. So
What a
yeah.
burger.
Yeah,
It's not the best
exactly.
source of good meat, though.
No, it isn't. But that's the thing. I don't like newfangled or neologisms, as they say, the new words that they make up. But there is one that I kind of like called flexitarian.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I relate to being a flexitarian because I wouldn't say I go through whims necessarily, but I just eat what feels right to me. And often, and this will be horrifying to the meat eaters that are listening, but often I eat nothing but fruit for just days at a time. I quite like fruit, apples especially, but all fruit. I really like that. And then if I need to, I'll go, oh, I've got to have a steak, I have to
yes.
have some fish. And then
I understand that. I had to go through my experiences. I don't know, I used to be a flexitarian all my life, it seemed. Especially when you're a child, you just,
Mhm.
anything you put inside, you burn it out. It just, you don't even think about food too much in this kind of method. Later, you just burden yourself it with information, with scientific based things.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
not? This better, that better, today or tomorrow. And I did went through, it was an interesting journey. I got into vegetarianism, and it did give me some benefits, and I just stayed in it for too long. I should have listened and just, didn't get ideological things creep in and hold me from when I started, like I smell the meat and I'm like salivating. I should get some. But I totally understand. For example, we'd never eat salad during winter. We just don't crave it.
Hmm.
And we crave fermented veggies. But
Yes.
we don't crave fermented veggies when it's summer. We just stop. Somehow we stop it. And we always crave apples in winter. And then it's when you have apples, actually, only natural cycles.
I love, I mean, I'm just going to have we're going to talk food now and
Yeah.
recipes, but yes, sir. But I love sauerkraut. You'd think that I was German by the amounts of sauerkraut that I can eat.
What are you
And
talking about?
kimchi,
German.
yeah, oh, so I take it the Lithuanians love their sauerkraut too.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Well,
It,
I made my first big, huge batch of sauerkraut. I had my dear listener in Canada, Mike. He wanted to send me something for Christmas. He said, just go get what you want. And so I got a huge sour fermenting crock, they call it. That's what I got. And then G and G. Graham is from Scotland and Gabriella is German, and they live in Germany. And they kind of talked me through the process of making the sauerkraut. And they're sending me a slicer for it. It's a wooden thing that
yeah,
has a blade on it. But I didn't. I had the cabbage and I had the crock, and I wanted to just start and dive in and do it. So I cut massive quantities of cabbage up by hand with my knife, and
yeah.
then I fermented it, and it's delicious. I mean, I'm eating it. I'll send you a picture of my refrigerator full of sauerkraut. And
Yes.
I mean, I've gone through about 4 jars so far, and I may
Oh,
wind down it. I may not want so much in the summertime, but I will definitely have enough sauerkraut to last me until the wintertime. And I think the next time I do it, they said it's better to do the fermenting when it's not so very, very hot. And here in
yeah.
Texas, it starts to get really hot in late April and then definitely May, where we are now. So I probably won't do my next batch until October or so. And I'm
Yeah.
going to try kimchi. Have you ever had kimchi?
Yeah, I did try. Maybe not always the best one. So I'm not I do one I do crave fermented food, but I'm not over the top. And I certainly don't eat even that much of a
I'm
sauerkraut.
over the top.
Yes.
I will live
Yeah.
it.
But I do like trying this and that, and we like cucumbers. And in my country, where I live, there are farmers that there's a farmer market where I go, and they come with a truck, food truck, and they throughout the summer, they're not open because they sell out everything.
Hmm.
By that time they're sold out, and they are actually preparing the things and to wait until the vegetables grow, and they can start the fermentation later in the year, but when it's, as you say, it's a bit cooler because it gets out of control. Doesn't matter,
Yeah.
unless you have a perfect environment for it.
Yeah.
And what they do is they offer a variety, like they make mixtures, even the different kinds of spices they use to you get beans, you get
Hmm.
patisson, I don't know, it's an parsnips, whatever you want, tomatoes, fermented, everything fermented, the pumpkin, uh, beetroots in all kinds of ways, carrots, you don't even mention, like everything,
Well,
even vegetables.
first of all, fermentation is an excellent way to preserve food. It's just
Yeah,
excellent. And it is also very, very good for you. A listener years ago, told Alan that he should be drinking kefir
mm,
and how good that was. And they sent him a little, and I wish I could remember which listener it was. I think it was within Canada on the West Coast, maybe. But anyway, they sent him a kefir starter. And I had us in kefir for all of the years after that. We were never without kefir. So,
yeah,
which is
it's
basically
delicious.
just delicious. It's fermented milk, really, and
Yeah.
it's good. It's healthy and
Although yeah, there's also kefir and there's sour milk.
well,
It's like a different,
yeah, I'm not sure they to me they taste very similar like buttermilk, which is a kind of a sour milk.
and buttermilk also. That
Yeah.
we love those in Lithuania. It's a staple. This sour cream,
Yes.
very very important.
Yeah.
I
Are
and
you, do you have yogurt too? I love just plain yogurt.
we get yogurt. You can make it yourself,
Yeah.
or also depends on cow or sheep or the goats. You can have that.
Yeah.
I'm still glad there are people who keep some animals, and do little batches and offer the products on the farmers market. But even the farmer markets are not. They shouldn't be called farmer markets. I'm sure it's in many countries like that.
Hmm.
With no exception, it's just a handful, maybe a couple of people if you know that they are doing it. But most of them are just resellers. You know
Hmm. Hmm.
that thing as well.
So,
Thank you, European
well, what I
Union. Thank
like,
you. Thank you.
okay, so yeah, I want to bring back to like kind of that deep love attachment to the motherland, but also family, because you are blessed in that you have a family that I don't want to use the word awake, but there is a communication that you have as a family. I'm not going to idealize it or romanticize it or say that it's perfect, but there is a communication that you have within your family that is open to truth and able to communicate that from any source. And then you also work together collectively as a family to think about what's happening, how do we protect ourselves as a family, what can we do, and you have a project. It's kind of a long term project as a family, and so I've opened this door for you if there's any part of that you want to talk about.
You remind me if I digress to either direction, because yes, currently I'm living also with my family. It's our family house where I grew up. It changed dramatically, mostly in like the last 10 years, because we were poor all our life. Like I grew up we for some years we didn't have hot water in the house, and we just had cold water. I didn't like showers. My father used to scare me and say that you'll grow scales on you if you don't, clean yourself. Things like that. And we lived like Eskimos, the roof was leaking, and if it was, we used to have harsh winters also back in the days. Now, not anymore because of the reasons we know why. So the winters used to be very harsh, maybe like minus 30 degrees and humidity and everything. It really is effective. So we would even sleep with many layers in our beds, and my window was wooden and one layer of glass, so it was not insulating well. And my father made something with the plastic, some sort of frame, which they would, when the time comes, the winter season comes, my brothers and mine rooms would get sealed up.
That, okay, so what you're describing is my life in Canada. You're absolutely describing it. I mean, there was a period where I didn't have any running water, but okay, so I won't give, great details on that. But it was routinely, the winters were routinely minus 30. And I'll switch over into the Fahrenheit too, because the thermometer would register both temperatures. And once it got down to minus 50 Fahrenheit, it would no longer register. That, I mean, that was as low as it
Yeah.
got. And that happened a few times. And minus 45 happened quite a few more times than that. And so it could get really cold. We had single pane windows, and I'm the one who weatherproofed them. I mean, Alan showed me how to do that because I'd never heard of such a thing, the concept. But you get these kits that have plastic, you tape them to the window, you cut the plastic, then you take a blow dryer that'll keep it from, I mean, the blow dryer is probably like a high-end trick. Maybe not everybody does that, but what it does is it kind of shrink wraps it in a way. So it smooths out all of the wrinkles that are on there. So it's more like looking through a pane of glass instead of a plastic covering there.
Oh,
So yeah.
sophisticated.
Yeah, I know I had to weatherproof all the windows there. And then, he also, I mean, I made some really heavy duty curtains too, which helped. But in spite of all of that, you'd get ice between the layers. I'm sure you know this too, that would come in on the inside of the house. That's how cold it was, so you'd have
Yeah.
a whole thing.
Your cheeks would be burned, like still in the morning you would have red cheeks, and
Yeah.
you don't want to get out of your
No.
pajamas, many layers and everything. You don't want to get out to change to go to school. Yes,
Yeah.
it was terrible in a way, but when I reflect back on those times, I also think I wouldn't change it because I find it kind of cool to have some experience like that. I think it toughened up because I meet people and I just think like you're too weak. You're like, you, you complain about everything, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
look at our parents. Like they went through multiple times of occupations. They like experienced like currency changes, like and historical changes that I think they had really interesting lives. And me, I'm glad I had a little bit of something, because I was born 4 years after the independence was announced. So I still got some years to see, which the independence happened in 1991. So my brother was born on that year, and I was born 4 years later. And I still got throughout my developing years to see how my country, turned from Soviet-like, there was a lot of influence, obviously,
Mhm.
because we all those years, and how the buildings were changing, how the content in the shops was changing, everything, the how the computers came also, and this I value even before I learned about these kind of things. From Alan, when he would mention that people born after 2000 will just don't know so many things, and when I would reflect about my parents, I would think, oh, I like hearing stories from them, and my father has a lot, especially, and if I can get, some information about other relatives or whatever about the situation, how it was like before, it's very interesting. And I think like I always saw them as this like the last generation that understands what is going on should
Hmm.
like have the most potential to understand what is going on, regardless. There's a lot of programming for them as well. They didn't know any better, but if they could understand things better, and when they're gone, I don't have enough capacity in a way, um, to supplement that the information, the experience that is lost after that. Uh, so I get back to your question about family things. I continue. We lived like that, struggling in a environment, and it was always renovations, renovations. Very long, decade lasting. If we need to do one room or something, and so the second floor was for the longest time not done. Maybe just 10 years. We started converting everything when we changed the roof, when we had money for that, and it was basically when we grew older with my brother, when my mother could leave us, but we matured earlier as well because of our upbringing.
Hmm.
Uh, the children mature a little bit more, and also I guess we were different in a way from the beginning because, yeah, we were not whining ever about it. We just kind of, as Alan talks about, it was so familiar to me here, some things that he was describing about his childhood, about going to children's houses, other people's houses, and hearing the same problems, money related things. And it, I could, I had exactly the same. Like I could really, I experienced that. It was unspoken even. Sometimes you just knew you shouldn't break stuff even when you're visiting somebody. It's just not gonna, not good for anyone, you know. Things like that. Everybody was slowly bringing themselves out, building lives for themselves as the years went by. And we grew up a little bit, and my mother was the first one to leave abroad for work, which she was hell of a scared of to do. But the, the how it was, in Europe, the countries were enjoying their independence for way longer than us, and they built their economies, and the salaries were huge in comparison to us because we still had our old currency until 2015, and it was like euro was 3.5 times higher for us. So if we earn, we get like whatever, like 1,000. You say you earn in let's say Germany, you go back and you have like 3.5 times more than that,
Hmm.
and the economy was still not so wrecked like it is now. And so you could still buy things with that. You could really, you can do a lot. And but the renovations, they cost a fortune. So still, it took a long, long time. And then we eventually, me and my brother, when we got old, we started to go abroad, and part of our earnings we would also invest. We helped. I just wanted to stop. Just we have we will live in this house. It has to be finished. Things need to be done, and I just want the renovations to stop because I'm sick of it from my childhood. And so we invested, and yeah, we are where we are now in that regards. And sometime during those years, actually, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, yeah, no, when the COVID, I don't know if I can mention, I say it like that, the
It's
COVID.
yeah, as long as
Or you
that
can cut that out. I will say when the world flu order began. When the flu order began, what happened? I think within a year, but we were also harboring this kind of ideas before, that we should maybe, would be nice to have some other place instead of the city because we live in a city. And in the private house, it's not a flat. So um, is very different. I could not have survived in the flat, I think. It's just not our kind of way of living, having
Hmm.
being boxed around and contain yourself with all these rules and noises and whatever. We have privacy, and our street is very, we live in a very good place. So if not even this place where we are, I don't think we would have stayed in the city for so long. But it's
Hmm.
nice city. Even I'm from Kaunas, which used to be a capital at some point as well. So it's the second largest city of my country, but by far the best. And I know a lot of people are on my side as well. It's very green and tolerable as
Hmm.
a city can be, as a city can be. Yeah,
Hmm.
especially the place where we are. So in regards to my family, going back again, yeah, we had hard lifestyle. Even my mother is working is a kindergarten teacher,
Hmm.
and her work is very close to the house. So she has many years and decades of experience. I also went to the same kindergarten, and still there are lots of people that are working that I knew back then as well. They are the same people. Kindergartens, another major topic that could be discussed wildly. Like there's so many things to be said about what is happening, in regards of education and everything from the books, basically everything from the agenda. You can see everything unfolding. And I discuss this sometimes with my mom, uh, if she's not too tired, because working with children, my God. So we used to eat food from the kindergarten for the longest time. Like it was till very late, um, in, when I was still in school, maybe until 10th grade at least. We would still, they throw a lot of, so instead of throwing, we would always bring home, and everybody was eating that same food we were trying to save. We were always in debt, and I had particular fear about money, and since a very young age, like I not fear, but like like I was. I think I have a memory of me being 5 years old, and because you observe the things, the tension in the house. I guess that's why when my parents together they calculate and you know pay the taxes, or I don't know, like in- they're dividing the finances for the month, and everything is not in your advantage all the time. So you pick it up, and I think I'm 5 years old or something. I had a memory that I'm walking over with my mom, and I'm blabbing, and talk a lot of things, but also in the back of my mind, I distinctly remember that I don't know. I don't really know how I will be an adult. I don't want to pay the taxes, something
Hmm.
like that. Just, but very in all seriousness, because I still remember. So it must have been, you know, hard, hardcore memory, uh, very distinct. I don't want to like this taxes, and I think I even brought up out. I don't know where I was getting these ideas, taxing, whatever. I thought the air will be taxed at some point. Maybe I was picking it up. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Alan used to bring up the idea that they've had things like that, the sunlight tax back in the Middle
oh,
Ages in
yeah,
England, I guess, and so people would, board up windows in their house. I mean, they were getting taxed for having light coming into the house,
yes.
and
Nothing is far-fetched. Anything.
no, it
It's,
really isn't. So. And
I,
I think if you think about it, any kind of carbon tax really is like being taxed for the air that you breathe. It's, yeah.
yes. And sorry for the folks listening because I keep digressing, but I try to remember where I'm supposed to go with the
Well,
question.
what I wanted to if you wanted to talk about it, you have a project as a family, the
Yes,
away from the city project that you've been working on as a family in this other place for a few years. I can't remember now
yeah.
how long, but it was
I started
something.
I started telling about the World Flu Order. This is when maybe within a year we were saying, observing things,
Hmm.
observing the madness. We were saying like, yes, we should like make this. Not just contemplate about it, but we should probably be more, do something in actuality, uh, because of we still needed finances elsewhere, but then this thing and a lot of uncertainty was going on even before the thing with Ukraine came up. And we said, yeah, we should have something where we could grow things for ourselves a little bit. In the city we still can. We have a garden place, but it's not enough. And maybe some animals in the future and everything. Eh, I will not maybe talk too much about it. I will try to be brief, but we're not, as you say, idealistic family. We are all very different, absolutely different. Somehow, um, by the grace of, I don't know, the universe, we are able to, it, I don't know, my parents never were this type of people that would impose their opinions on you. They had throughout the years, of course, my mother mostly because she was raising us basically. My father was less in, he didn't grow up himself, let's just say fully, and didn't spend so much time with us. So my mother basically, and her values that came through her from how she was raised, she had some fears that she was projecting on us, and perceptions a little bit, and how you call those? Maybe if I remember the word.
Neuroses.
Uh, that too a little bit. My mom is quite calm, but she can't handle everything, and I am, I don't blame her at all. She did how she could because also there was a periods of depression in her life, and we were children. Everything on the too much on one person's shoulders, so I cannot complain. But yeah, we had to work through these things throughout the years, of course, to get rid of, pluck them out, what doesn't belong and reasons. And there were some disagreements of opinions, but basically my parents never really like told, what I expect from you, or, you shouldn't think like that, or you shouldn't like do that. You shouldn't try. Always, if I had ideas, something come up for me and my brother, we would, yeah, we can try, we can do. Why not? Try even, like that would be some encouragement. So I tried many things while I was growing up and venturing out there in the world. But basically, so we are able to talk. There was a period of some transitioning, let's say, but because my brother and I don't know how we turned out like this, but we are, let's say, awakened differently from our parents, but still we were able to little bit communicate with them. And my mother um, processed, didn't project her skepticism and fears outwardly. She processed it inside from what she would be hearing from me or from my brother, and eventually she started to see things herself also and seek information and learn things. My father, I guess because of his life experience, he was kind of a rascal. And I think how I would like to phrase this. He he also is a history, geek. All kinds of things are interesting to him. So, you know, each one of us had different points of views, but also somehow we were able to, talk out and each incorporate something from our experiences, from our, life. Um, and talk about agendas basically. if I explain this well enough, I don't know. and we're not we were never being judged, or we would not shut up each other, or I'm we are blessed, I guess, really, especially when the world order was going on. I realized this strongly because I was reading on the comments from people what's going on around. It looked so crazy to me, all of it. And I was there at home in peace, relative peace. I didn't even want to get out. I was like, I'm not quarantining myself, but it's just a natural place I want to be. I don't want to get out there, into the world. Just it was madness. Um, yeah, but that was
So I mean, what you described to me, I mean, and I think it just came through there too, but in email is yes, you're all very different, and it was not, idealistic, and there might be a little bit of tension, but overall, you communicated openly and honestly about what you saw and how it was going to impact you as a family, and you were able to make plans, and there was none of this, you're crazy to say that, or you're crazy to think that. It's what you have in your home with your mother and your father and your brother, in spite of all your differences or human nature failings, is a family cooperation that this
yes.
is something bad is happening and we're going to get through it as a family.
You always find the right words to put it. That yes, basically that. But maybe I'll just emphasize that we're not that structured, and we're not. We don't have a plan because we are different, and there are some things that I probably don't want to get into now. Things change. Back then, we were able, we managed to gather money together, and I was going abroad as well, earning, and
Mhm.
everybody was earning. Everybody actually, at some point, none of us were in the house. The house was empty. Everybody was abroad. We would come back maybe in December, in winter, at Christmas table, and uh, at least so we were building the finances. We got the farm, which has which is actually it's the same farm my grandparents were living with before.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
It's
That's
great.
great.
It's great because I will just mention that it never was supposed to be like this. You know, it could have been inherited, but when my grandfather passed away, he was the most influential and figure, and he glued everything while he was alive. You couldn't see many things going on in the immediate, in all the families surrounding that have so that we are connected, and um, that the bad things didn't come out. But as soon as my grandfather passed away, all hell broke loose. People showed their faces, and in the midst of that, the farm was lost and it was abandoned for 15 years. And
Ah,
it left our hearts stained, very stained. And we didn't talk about it for years. I was 13 then, so I was not eligible to get into adult matters and I didn't have knowledge and character too much to sort things out. There were many mistakes made, and like the adults sometimes when they don't communicate, it's not good. You have to, even if it's unpleasant, but because
yeah.
of the customs, trying to please someone, eh, we ended up losing that inheritance. Everybody, actually, everybody. And we were the only ones that, after we fixed ourselves, our lives here more or less stabilized, built a house here in city. And this happened in the world. We said, we cannot think of any other place but where our souls, like, how could you buy a new farm and know that maybe I get a little emotional, but the place where you spend your childhood, is taken and left to rot. So you cannot. you wouldn't be calm and at peace, you know. So I guess it was also kind of a soul healing thing for us. We did that. You know, it was not ideal farm. It's not ideal. It's everything was really not in a great shape when we came in. It just keeps on requesting investments, but we have it. It's nice to go there, and I send you a couple of videos on the better days. Was lovely now from this year. Uh, we go there, we don't, we would produce something for ourselves by vegetables, I mean, but initially, because of a lot of personal things, things have changed as well. I, for example, have really wrecked a relationship which didn't got fixed with this common goal with my brother, for example. We don't, we don't speak, we live in the same house, and it's 1 year I say hello, but um, I don't get a hello back, you know, it's like that. A lot of things unresolved. So we're not one fist and we're not united, but if there's a trouble, I think we will manage. And we have nice neighbors in our neighborhoods, really old school, uh, still the people that never left the city, you know, like they're still there hanging in there and doing their own things, you know. They still have cows and they make cheese and they always come visit us every time. It's so different when you leave the city. You have completely different communication, you know, with the little people that are left in the rural areas. In the city, you know, you spend years, you barely talk to your neighbors, maybe with some even only in the summertime because each of you pops out, you know, to do your little gardening and then you see each other. But when you go into the farm in the village in the countryside, there is different. I'm not saying universally people are friendly or anything, but you can find those and they support each other as communication. It's
Hmm.
community, like small tribe in a way. I at least was warming and awakening in a way when we, after so long not being in that environment and spending time in the city. You know, 15 years have passed. I didn't have this. I forgot. It's always nice to go there, and our neighbors always come. So you never have it in the city. People barging. They even have like we have a fence, right? We have a fence, but they have a how you call it the doorway, the opening directly in our place. So we just we're marching not for the frontal doors or anything, but inside our inner yards we have the
Like a
connecting doors. I don't
like
know.
a swinging door, a
But
swinging.
it's a metal fence, and you the
Oh,
same as the I don't know how. Maybe there's a specific word for it, but basically like that. So you would not have it here. Then we would not have it in the city. I mean, you would not maybe have. What's the point in having fences then? You know, but there, you know, the territory is bigger and you have fence for the chicken, for the
all
hen
right.
ground, right? It's not for the same reasons here, like in the city.
Mhm.
And I love it. Our neighbors constantly marching, you know, whatever, hammering, cutting, mowing the lawn, and they just pass by and you know, yeah,
Yeah.
funny things.
Yeah.
So I answered, I guess. I hope I answered something on that matter. I don't know if we had some ideas about maybe doing some sort of business in the future. Maybe we could live out of the farm, but I don't see it happening. And actually, with what's going on in the overall with the economy, with our country and geopolitics and everything, it's just I see a disaster coming, and just will be survival mode,
Yeah.
not not business.
Well,
You know,
I hope that your brother softens his heart to you.
it's not something out of the blue. It's not a phase. We always were like cats and dogs since we were children, but he was the person we would be able, and he had someone to talk whatever, like all these agenda things. We were the first ones to be, chatting between each other. We could understand each other, and anything we could bring out to the table, anything, any wildest crazy ideas, reptilians, whatever, aliens, anything. Anything was on the table in the realm of possibilities, and he has interesting perspectives, but whenever I would have something of my own, it just doesn't work quite like that. And eventually we would have periods where we don't talk, but this one is a bit more severe. I'd say it basically kind of, you could tell, maybe say so that he hates me, maybe. Yeah. But if there will be trouble, I just have the benefit of the doubt. He would not ignore even then me, and we would somehow just focus on what needs to be done, in order for us to stick together and survive, things like that. I also thought I will speak completely different things to you today.
All right. Well, I would
Beginning,
imagine that we haven't gotten anywhere near through your 50
50
pages
pages.
of Word document. But I should let you go because you're getting up early in the morning and going to
No,
no?
if
Is
you
it
want to continue, if you want to commit to this conversation, I just know that you're so busy, and yeah, who knows when and if we are gonna have a second
Well,
history.
there are a couple of things I wanted to ask you. When you go to Switzerland, do you have your laptop with you or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So you can send some pictures or you can communicate. I was thinking it might be fun to do another talk with you right at the peak of your season. You could take some pictures of the weeding and the people that you work with and your garden and Switzerland and so forth. And
I in my previous job, because I changed, I talked about the Lognatere team that was 100 people company, and we were all over the Switzerland, and we would get called out. Not all 100 people, moving to one place, but teams. And I was driver also, and like team leader and deputy eventually. And I really rose through the ranks naturally. And I enjoyed, because I enjoyed it as well. I thought like this is the way. It was not sustainable. It's in a way because I don't like living abroad, and Switzerland is not really my place. Uh, but I could look past through that, and spend my time there. But the work itself, I thought I wish it would be like this in Lithuania. I would never leave, because I was really good at what I was doing and teaching others. And also, I thought this is the way to, is that felt the most proper, maybe is the word, to earn money. Because everything else
it
before
didn't
even,
go against your conscience.
yes, yes, exactly. That's what I want to say. Because even before I knew about Alan, I learned about Alan. That was basically the reason I was struggling when I was choosing a career path and for school, because back then already I had anarchistic ideas, you would say, like it just, the system, I thought like this is madness, like this is so ridiculous. Like, and I don't want to think about taxes as well. From the young age, my thoughts that I just didn't know how to put like my worldview in the nice structural way and express it to anyone actually. But my career, anything I would think of, I would see how I do damage in a way. Like I didn't see a light. I mean, anything, even like psychology was interesting for me, interesting in itself, talking with people, being able to help them. But when you go into specifics, the brainwashing and everything, and do you
Mhm.
actually help people? Do you go to their souls even? Like it's mostly something else, it's just matter and medication and things like that. And each area I had but because I had a vast variety of things I was interested in, it was also a problem. The spectrum, but always like I didn't have a positive thing too much. Like it outweighed the positiveness, the negativeness. I felt like, and I would earn money from it. I would feel dirty if it like I don't was not how I wanted. And when I went to Switzerland for this work in the farm and the organic farms, and there I saw people who are really working hard, which way to go, Switzerland, but there's also problems there. It's the same like everywhere else. And actually, Switzerland is even exceeding with the farmers that are in suicides. Like the rate is, I think, the highest, I was told some years ago. The statistics,
Wow.
I was like, wow, would not have guessed. So interesting. Very, very difficult. So the farm that I work in, I changed my workplace. I left that the other place because the environment was too toxic in the end to me, and there were some revelations there, major revelations, where I got really involved, and I tried to help people, and eventually, you are left alone fighting in the field, and everybody is like in your face supporting you, but behind your back they are stabbing you, and I got like this mini version, my own experience of what Alan also talks about is that with the when people turn against you, when you're trying to do the right thing and turn against you, or they change their swayed, they're easily there are different kinds of levels also of people, they're with you and until certain level, and then they even turn against you as well. So I had lots of that, and from my own experience, for that particular experience, and then so I was able to understand Alan very well when he spoke about those things, and convert it into bigger picture as well. So my new place where I work in this other farm is one of our customers, and when we made contact, with as I was introduced from my previous job to her, I always liked her farm the most. I liked her as a person as well. Like we became friends as well. So she never she wanted me to work there for her, but there's this unwritten rule: you don't steal the workers from the other farmers. It had to come to my own head, and I had to approach her to ask, because she's that honorable. There are people who will approach you anyway, even with this unwritten rule. But so eventually it was a mutual goal. She wanted, and I went. I went to work for her, um, and I had the break, and then I'm coming back again a little bit, and I'm gonna help her. It's one of the reasons. It's also a friendly help out. I have this free time that I can spare, free time in a way.
Hmm.
I will, I will earn my money there, but I also am helping her out because it's very hard to find people who you can trust, and nobody wants to work hard anymore. And also, not people don't have the same amount of energy anymore. Even people who are young, but they're even I met much younger people than me, like in their 20s, and they are corpses, like they're wrecked. They they get tired easily. Many reasons for that.
Hmm.
They don't they didn't need don't necessarily need to assume anything about the injectables, having to do with that, but just in general, the energy levels are not like, what you think about are my parents, which they are in their 60s almost. They how they were working, I cannot compare. I feel like, yeah, I'm not nowhere near, even though I can work hard, but and also enjoy it. But some the people I encounter, usually they're just way less on energy and the capacity in many things, and also people. It's hard to find people who can be their own managers.
Mm.
You don't need to stand behind and or give a task that they would do automatic. Like
Hmm.
the same thing for maybe all the time, even, but that could think and observe and notice things and give you feedback. It's hard, and they don't stay. If you find something, maybe you invest a lot of time into people when they come, teaching them everything, and then they leave, because
Mm-hmm.
they get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the money in farming is, even though it's big for me, I can live here in Lithuania with that, and even have months where I don't work, and can travel even, and then come back. But it's it's the smallest. It's one of, like, it's the lowest there, the salary, And if I would live in Switzerland like that all the time, I think it would be just the same like here. You're earning, the, the small salary in my country.
You make me think about something, um, which is where countries, I mean, I know you've got the EU, and so this is supposed to, the lie of it is a kind of an equality and free trade. But I mean, when you were talking about what happened 20 years ago and bringing it into Lithuania, I had a friend who was working in Italy, an American friend, at the time that they brought that in there. And she said, however they sold it and whatever the PR was on it, she just went from buying a cup of coffee that was the equivalent of, 50 cents to being $8, and it was overnight. It was just the raising of prices within your own country. I don't know if that happened in Lithuania, but she said in Italy, everything had to be brought up to the standard pricing, or, the
Yeah,
and but what you're talking about there, being a Lithuanian and working in Switzerland, it makes me think of what happens in the US, where nobody in the US wants to do the farm jobs. So
yeah,
everybody
that's
complains,
universal.
and this is, I mean, I've heard this for 40 odd years, as an argument against why borders should be open or why they shouldn't be open. It's just pick a side. And they would bring in Mexican workers primarily for seasonal jobs. And then supposedly they were to be sent back to Mexico, but many of them would stay. Many of them just lived in the woods and the forest because, in a tent, they didn't have anywhere else to go, if they weren't rounded up by the officials. But what you're talking about is a cheap source of labor for industry, for commercial farmers. And I'm wondering, is the situation the same in Switzerland, where Swiss people do not want to do these jobs? They're, it's high paying for you as a Lithuanian, but for a Swiss person, it is not high paying. I mean, what's your observation on it?
Absolutely. And even though I was never in economics, never in politics, these kind of things, it just came to me naturally from the experience. I was like observing and thought, like, you know, um, in Switzerland, if they didn't have immigrants, they would not be thriving at all. At all, they would like collapse in the same day. If everybody left, all the immigrants, because the food industry everywhere I went, because I all this seasons that I spent, I had such a variety of introduction into everywhere, like in the fabrics, different kinds of farmings. Even like I was getting specifically educated on things, and visiting as a, like, we had excursions even, and many things from behind the scenes as well. That we could have a whole talk about foods in Switzerland and how my understanding about the standards came, but talking about the immigrants. So if they left in many things, like, the cleaning jobs in general, this kind of low level, let's say low level jobs there. immigrant. And actually, when I go to Switzerland, I was surprised because I wasn't able to tell. First time I went there, I had to wait some time in the burn station, and I was observing the people around, and I felt the whole world is here. Like the whole, like I don't see the Swiss face. What is this? Because anytime you enter a country, you can like more or less pick up. In Europe, it's an advantage. We were never married. Let's say the countries, we were always somehow distinct, and it's a long process of marrying,
Hmm.
make us one.
Right.
Let's say, still so many culture differences, like north, south, and east and west, different. And every country you went into, Germans, we have more in common, in mentality, maybe with Lithuanians, but but not with Spanish, I guess,
Hmm.
different kind of things in comparison. So I went there. I'm standing there in the bird station, and I see the whole world around me. Thought, where am I? And when I was working in the agriculture industry, jumping around there and there, it was mostly Polish people, but it's not the same. We are still different, Lithuanian and Polish. We don't speak the same language and everything, so it's not like you're with your own people. Polish have their strong bonds and strong community, but they're huge nation. We are nowhere in comparison with numbers. We're like not even 3 million anymore. But Polish, it's many millions. So there, a lot of them are in Switzerland, Portuguese, and lots of Romanian and Moldovan. Lot of Romanian. Mostly worked with Romanian. Very small numbers of Lithuanians, just a few, and Polish. And the rest were occasionally, maybe one guy from Jamaica and Cuba, and maybe, some random people that would join. A minority. Majority was Romanian. I even learned Romanian talk basically, like because it was inevitable. They are chatterboxes, and especially the community I was within, you know. Yeah, Switzerland would be, yeah, it would be a downfall. It's all pretty and nice. I say it's really like out of the postcard. For sure, you
Hmm.
don't even need to saturate too much, even if you make a real you don't need to no touch-ups. It is beautiful. The nature is the only thing I really like. I admire it, but I also love our forests. Doesn't compare. It's a different thing. It's, but that's it. Everything else is it- it- when I started traveling, um, using my time to travel here and there. This is what I always come up to, just instinctively, naturally. I don't know. I would have this observation talking with people. I thought, this is important. You talk with the locals and you ask them how the life is. This is how you learn about the country.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter that everybody it's the same actually. Like they don't know everything. They have their own ideas, what's
Hmm.
that? But
Hmm.
basically, you can still hear the same things, same politics, same social issues, um, same economic situation, same salary situation, same living standards. Maybe, if you go into the specifics, there are differences, but in general sense, I always thought it's the same everywhere. And I can only live a better life, let's say, if I go to a richer country in what we have to choose from, maybe Scandinavian countries
Hmm.
or Germany or Switzerland, like that, earn their salary and come back to my poor economy country and live there middle class. As a middle
Hmm.
class, I got to taste a little bit of that good life, as we say. We really had a period where we relaxed ourselves after finishing building up things here, touching up, and not saying, with the farm doesn't get the same amount of investment, much slower, but because we still want to invest. I don't know. I told, my mother is getting old, and she's I, I guess you could say the best friend in a sense, because I don't have any friends left. Acquaintances, yes, but not something, friends, which is normal for this mindset. The kind of ideas that I have in my head, in my worldview. You cannot, you know, blend in too much. So my mother and I want to spend quality time with her as long as she has health. So I say we still have to, you choose what you would like. And she grown to like from my example, she was always afraid of the world. But she grown to like, exploring here and there. And this is our thing now. We have a little budget and we maybe travel somewhere, and it's been epic so far. As I was working in Switzerland, I was able to take my mother, who was once in the fields, with the stick, gathering, um, shepherding. It's not, I guess it's not the same for the cows when they do the
Mm-hmm.
cows,
Mm-hmm.
something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And could never imagine herself out there in the most expensive European country, if it still is, and would have some holidays there, and like, you know, like, it's a big deal. Oh, and it was a big deal for me so that I could do this for my mom. So experience, it's what I tried to introduce to my mom, because she was always this um, very necessary, this quality of the person, that they can do, they can think practically, like, of the, what things should be done, what needs to be done. Because I wouldn't think of all of it, but my mother did, and I just, this is my returning to her a little bit for all the all the years of nerves and energy sacrificed for the better of our whole family, and trying to glue as she tried that in her own capacity. That's what we do. So I travel,
So
but
she's been to Switzerland a few times with you,
yeah, quite a
and
few, I
to,
think.
oh, that's great. That's great. And
Yeah.
where else have you managed to get her to see?
You will make me brag if I say this. Yeah. Well, we've been to Japan recently.
Oh, wonderful. I think I remember when you said you were going to take that trip. That's great.
Did I mention? I don't know.
I thought you did mention that, or maybe I have another listener. But the other
Yes.
listener was there at Christmas time and had a fantastic experience. Just maybe
Yeah.
about 3 weeks there.
And
So
we
where
love,
did you go?
we really like Japan. We want to go back.
That's neat.
Um, it's the thing. I didn't even tell my story, actually, how I got to Alan.
No, okay. So let's hear that. You're a mind reader through the computer because I'm like, okay, I have to ask her to share
But
how she got to Ellen.
this recording will be 10 hours long. We, we cannot do this to people. It will be like 3 parts, and people will be like, that's just Melissa, make it stop. She doesn't.
I think I have a feeling that there's a lot of people who tune in and go, Melissa, make it stop no matter what. Uh-oh, I've opened my mouth. Melissa, make it stop.
Yeah, you've always, by the way, as long as I've been following also your content, when I can, and I really am trying to, yeah, I like to listen to your things, but it's so many times it was just, I wish I could tell her right away, like I was just thinking about something and she make a video, and these things pop up, or I was like even discovering Alan's material. I was like, I should try to make some structure. He mentions people, he mentions books, and I want to, like, maybe Bertrand, ah, Bertrand Russell. He mentions that. He mentions these books, but I want to have like some structure, whatever. This, he said that and that. And anybody else, the Jacques Attali or others, or Brzezinski. And and somebody came up with that. Like the videos came out, the authors, and
Oh
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
basically something that I had in mind, and I thought, oh, I will do this for myself. But then somebody did it for everybody, and I was like, oh, amazing! You have amazing
Yeah, no, it's good.
people
It's
for help.
great that the people who have come up with good ideas and little projects and are doing working on a project now where they're just compiling different quotes of Alan's and and what show did he say it in, and I think it's great because I could literally come up with ideas just like that and but much faster than I would ever be able to do if I had three lifetimes. So I am always
Yeah,
delighted when somebody says, "Oh, look what I've done." So,
yeah. One lifetime for reading books, one
yep.
lifetime to travel, one lifetime for family.
So
Yes.
how did you discover Alan? How did you stumble on him in your researches? And
And I'm sorry, I can't make it short
that's
because
okay.
it can't, it's actually, yeah, worth the whole time spent on this conversation so far. Basically, I had, so I will skip a lot of things. I will omit just for the time's sake, but basically, you picked the idea maybe that I was not awakened, certainly didn't have such intelligence and putting things like Alan did from the young age. Uh, but there were things planted, or here and there that they were just stored in me, and they were collecting, and I could, in all those 50 pages that I wrote, I mentioned specific things even that popped up, but eventually, when the world flu order came, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I was there. It was my first, before that was announced publicly, it became a thing. I was sitting at my home and I was planning my journey. My first, I felt like world discovering journey. I thought, this is going to be a big one because before I would just go to one country, spend some time there, maybe a month, really slow traveling, Um, and here I was planning something bigger. And I thought I want to go to Asia. I always was like fascinated with these exotic images, Thailand and stuff. And it turned out so that I made quite an interesting itinerary. And I was going to reaching towards Russia. And I thought I will make it with the Trans-Siberia, and I will go to Asia. This is how And, I had a few months for that. And, I wanted to make it a quality trip, not to rush through because the countries they have so many experience, things to do that are so unfamiliar to me. And I don't want to run through them because probably this is maybe I'm not going to have many opportunities to do the same, and I don't really like coming back to the same places. Just, you have one life, you want to explore more wider. And so I thought, okay, Russia and then Japan yeah, I'll do that. And and China was on my mind as well. And because of eventually when I was arranging the plans, I saw, oh, I don't have enough time. This is the only country I need a visa for. Um Long process, it's a long process. For Russia also I need visa, but everybody needs. But it was easier, much easier. So I omitted, and because I felt I need to leave by February, and this was going the whole planning. I was planning the whole month, like in January 2020. And before February, I thought, I just have to leave. I will not wait those few weeks to add China in and whatever, make everything much faster. And I left, and I remember like when I was getting handed a visa for me for Russia, my passport, my agency, my agent was telling, oh, I'm hearing there's some virus going on in China. Make sure you're not kissing any boys, in the train. in Russia when I go, because you can go to China also with the same Trans-Siberia train and Mongolia as well. I thought, this could have been so much more excited maybe. But as we know how the history tells us, it's good that I didn't end up in China eventually. It's the synchronicities, where making and some intuition as well. So I didn't go, and I made it through Russia 1 month, from one end to the other on my own. Wonderful people, wonderful country. Can't say anything. Otherwise, it's the same as everywhere. It's the same as everywhere. They're, they're not to be demonized we cannot do that, demonize the country, because I met some wild accusations when I got back to my country. But anyway, I made it from Russia to Japan, spent there a couple of months, the whole thing with COVID hits. And I was like, I just got here. I'm not gonna. Everybody was getting their messages from their countries, the embassies, and telling them to go home. And I was surrounded with foreigners that were expats. They had their lives planned there in Japan. A lot of them. They were not like me. I had a tourist visa, and they had working and study visas like that, and they had jobs, and they were renting places, and I was just, I was doing volunteering work. This is how I would escape my bill for accommodation, let's say, and I could stay longer, prolong and also enrich my experience. So they did that, and it was getting wilder and wilder, but in my head I was not phased at all. I was like, did you forget? Like, we always get viruses, every year, and this will pass. So I'll be like, forget about the swine, the bird, all those. Like, I was like annoyed. Like, this is yet again, the same thing. But it was not over, it was persisting, and it was not finishing. And yeah, I got stuck in Japan, basically. So I instead of 2 months, I could not leave for 4, and I was happy not to. And I was not under panic at all, because the Europe was crazy. It was all locked down. I was just shaking my head whenever I would, whatever kind of information I would be introduced to through my surroundings or whatever, and all the foreigners that left. It was, I guess, I will brag but Japan at that time was the best place to be in, because it was open everywhere there. Later they closed the borders for some time, but and I couldn't even leave Japan. The flights were getting canceled. I had my flight canceled 7 times. So I prolonged 2 months. One of the Polish airlines almost like bankrupted at that time. It seemed like it's gonna bankrupt, so I had to cancel my book. Like, I wasn't enjoying my time there anyway, but my finances were depleting. I had some fun stories there. I couldn't get any help. I couldn't get out of the country, not because of my own reasons, I had to prolong my visa there. There are many things. And eventually I was so low on finances that I was like, oh, I probably will need to live in a tent somewhere, and I was expressing my concern to my embassies, and the Lithuanian embassy kind of thought, oh yeah, we can help you with, maybe we can transfer money, from one of your relatives if somebody wants to send you, but we cannot help you with anything. Meanwhile, all the other countries were actually flying their people out, and helping, and even Russian airlines flew people, my friends, by also one of the wildest synchronicities I had back in then. It's just I met my friend there also. She was there at that time, and I thought about her, and we didn't spoke for years. And I thought, I'm here, and it's crazy, and I think about you. And she said, oh, I'm coming. So we met, and they left because they got scared. They shortened their holiday. So lots of crazy things going on. But I was like, I'm doing my own thing, except that there's this finance. And but midst of that, I was experiencing the culture and visiting places. Like, there were these Japan is so full of amazing wooden structures, all these pagodas and temples and shrines, many, many, many things. Just unbelievable. And something I've never experienced of that magnitude in my life. It was so different from Europe. Europe is basically kind of the same everywhere. You go into the old towns, which should be the most interesting part, and only the architecture or the churches you can enjoy. But every shop, every restaurant, there's like, it shouldn't be there. They're like lingerie in the old town on display,
Mm,
uh, and also McDonald's or these Starbucks things. Everything that shouldn't be there. Like the old town should be like reflecting on your culture, everything. I would
mhm.
even wish there were no cars there, like just basically people, maybe even mandatory to wear medieval clothes or something like that.
Here's your ecotourism coming out.
Yeah, my idea, like authenticity, stuff to do. And Japan, for example, you can easily find, you know, um, crafts. You can engage in things. And so I was noticing patterns there, something that often when I was, the more I traveled, I got this also uh, depressing and um, weird feeling inside that, what am I looking at? I see all these things and I think I'm looking at something and I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't understand. There's something I don't understand here in front of me. You know, why is it is like this? There's, I don't know how to explain, but there was something under the surface that or there was a whale around me that I could not break through, and I feel like there is. And I had a long history of going into conspiracies, whatever, or fact theories, and I knew about the chemtrailing, the geoengineering, the and stuff, and it was all in me, these things and Masonic things and ideas and spirituality. I'm omitting a lot. There's a lot of things about each I would like to talk, but so eventually it was building up inside of me. Not really someone you can talk to because I also had like spiritual experiences, and there's this material plane that stuff is going on, and your daily life that you have to do this. You have the logical pattern of how you should live the life according to society, and nobody, everybody's kind of, this system, this circle that you're supposed to be part of. Um, Everything was building up, building inside of me, all these ideas, all these. I didn't, I wouldn't say I had thought through a lot. It was just collecting in me. Some things were really unfinished ideas, and I didn't do my job well, with researching, and I was led through circles many times, and I even had a few years that because also I was working in Switzerland, so I didn't have time. I would be dead after all, when finishing the day. So I wouldn't watch movies, I wouldn't watch documentaries, I wouldn't read any books, and I thought also earlier, I just way earlier in life, maybe in school already, I discovered, like, I thought there are these spiritual and new age stuff now that we call it, but if it's in the books out there for people to buy, it cannot be like, how can the book be called like the secrets, of whatever, the mysteries and stuff, and none of the people, it's you can buy it in stacks, like it's sold all over the place, and there's not a revolution going on outside, like, so what can be so profound there that you don't? And I read those quite a lot of those books as well. I've looked into the ideas and things, but I would get into this and then we would get out of it, and because it just it's not that. I'm looking something else, and I wasn't able to formulate it. What is it? Because there were my experiences, and there were this theory things. There were these other people's ideas and other concepts, philosophies, whatever. I was looking all over the place. Religion, anything, everything. Going through it myself. So because I had that, yeah, I guess I had to have it before I got to Alan because it was so easy for me to understand everything. It was not it, it, it didn't break my foundation of my life. It was just, oh, my floor is really uneven. I need to start, fixing stuff here and there. But this is not yet how I discovered Alan. It's just building up to it. I'm sorry it's taking so long. But eh, so eventually I from Japan, I didn't get to go back home, which was the plan that I go back home and I then go to Switzerland and do a new season again for a long time. The time dragged on, so I just had to make my plans to go straight to Switzerland because it was the first country and the only then that opened its borders.
Mm.
And also there were no restrictions for agricultural business like the life, um, the, the, the services that are the most important. They didn't get
You're an essential worker.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It was amazing because so many people were wearing these muzzles, and they were contained in some environments where they had to be inside. And my job was ideal. I could be outside all the time, and we didn't have to wear anything. And so I, for the longest time, only my mother knew about my experience because I said I escaped all of it, all the madness. It's like, in the sense that my freedom in a way didn't get affected. I had a good time. I was away, and then I went straight to work, which it was fine for me, not like for everybody else. So
Hmm.
I kept it to myself, and only my mother knew because boy, people were really suffering um, terrible things, really. And I was just shaking my head. It was like just one of those things I didn't expect, about that it would grow like that. And eventually, when I got back home after half a year or longer, I got to stay there, and there everything was getting prolonged. The restrictions. So I could stay in my home, and I until the next season came, and I didn't even have actually. I was so full from my adventures that I didn't make plans for a new trip. I was good to stay at home. And as I was at home, I was boiling. Oh, and my head was boiling. Just I started to have time. I could start to listen to different alternative medias, and there were new channels popping up in Lithuanian as well. And I was listening to Lithuanian people talking for the first time these channels are creating. And okay, what's going on? Because I was not following anything, just it was ridiculous. I did follow some stuff, but just it was it was not this propaganda was not affecting me. I saw it differently. I didn't fall into um, fear mongering, but I thought, what will come of the world now? Is it this scenario or this scenario? I thought, is this it? Is this it? And I had these ideas boiling, and so the farm plans came up. Another crisis came up, with the Ukraine thing came up, and my country, after they put down the COVID away, eventually uh, they went really hard with Ukraine. And I don't think anywhere else it happened like it happened in Lithuania, because my country turned to Ukraine, literally. In my town, if I would step my nose out somewhere, it was Ukraine flags. And still today, a lot of things are still here, in the major
I
stuff.
would I would say that you're probably right that nobody got it the way that Lithuania did, but I maybe a close second was the US because it literally was okay, we're not talking about COVID anymore. Now we're talking about Ukraine, and all of the media was talking about it nonstop, and the Ukraine flags went up and it was everywhere. We were
Yes,
inundated with it, blanketed with it. It was Ukraine, 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 Ukraine. Now that has died down for a while now, but at least since October 7, 2023 here
yeah.
in this country. But it was nonstop for a year. It was all Ukraine all the time.
It didn't stop here. I have to say, thank God we don't have television for that TV for decades. We don't have it. We smashed it when there were changes from the cables where you couldn't stand with the antenna and catch the right tune in into channel. When that stopped, we just didn't buy a new one because we didn't have money for that. Thank God we didn't have money. So many things were more easy and more fun. You get creative when you don't have money. Um, but having said that, so it got so crazy, and people just transitioned so well into that. The ones that were really into the virus, the whole pandemic idea, switched so well to the whole support Ukraine thing completely. Like you probably I don't even need to bring stories up. It just was madness. We couldn't speak with any one of our relatives on the phone even. Like they were avoiding us. We became um, outcasts because we were so chill. I guess in my family we were just none of us were eager to get to do anything for ourselves. With the interventions into our bodies. With it, that wasn't even a question. Thank God. I know so many people had completely different stories. So I kept it to myself. This was just my happy ending on that behalf. But Ukraine, and I have some major notes about this actually, because eventually it's boiling down to the fact that Baltic countries are next, and I could make a lot of introductions also about it. In fact, how it seems because they prepare everything in advance, and it's starting to show.
Hmm.
Uh, the advancement, the preparations were made, I'm sure, way longer because anything from even our independence, how it appeared. I can read books.
Hmm.
I have one book that I thought I will read for a few sentences from it, but I had to bring up Ukraine for that the conversation. But even for our independence, everything was just manufactured incredibly, incredibly. Now you can like put up everything from different sources, people's stories, and build the whole picture if you are open-minded and if you seek these things. All the others, they live in still in their. It's really not the same. It's not the same as I see it. Um, Not the truth, at least. And everything is accidental, and everything is just terrible people, doing terrible Putin. It's just, yeah. So I was pretty isolated, even at home during, let's say, COVID time. And didn't we didn't have a problem. I would chat with my brother, for example, and discuss ideas and things like that from time to time. But eventually our views they all started to separate. I would listen to him and I have other I have feeling inkling about something else, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to express it, and I withdrawn and became quite silent. I couldn't give him feedback. He would say some things to me and I would just take it in and yeah, I couldn't give anything back because I saw things different, but I didn't have proofs or whatever. They were just, you know, intuitions and inklings. And things, you cannot describe why you think like that. And we've withdrawn, and I was left on my own. And many things left unsaid about this. But all these experiences and ideas were boiling in me, and what was going on around, that I'm missing something, and I didn't leave my home for a long time. I would just be inside, which was not usually is not a problem for me. I spend time on my own. I don't need to chat. I don't need to. I don't need parties. I don't need to go, meet people and talk, stuff like that. I'm good with my own inside and my own thoughts, but at that time it was turning into something else. It was isolation that was turning into something else. Like I was turning into hope. It was turning into hopelessness because it couldn't quite like put everything together anymore from all my life, from before up to this point, which I am thinking like, what is this the time, what some sort of bigger crisis? Did I not do my work at this point when I had signs uh, about it? And I thought, yeah, I actually had a moment where I was in my room here, and I wished that nobody would interrupt like accidentally and see me like this. But I had a breaking point where I don't have a religion, but I felt I was at the point of such hopelessness and despair, and that I needed to pray. I didn't have any other tool on my hand. And I felt like even though I cannot, even in my mind, it's hard. I see a lot of pictures, it's my mind. Sometimes it's not in the words, it's the whole movie. And how can you describe a movie? It makes sense in the picture. If I could paint it, ideally I could, and then so to show it somebody, maybe they would get it, but try to describe it, something else, And I was sitting and on my own and think and started speaking out in voice, very hardly, very hard. Like they were not coming out of my mouth, the words. And I was so struggling. And I see, even after I realized how significant this was later on, I even wrote down my prayer, which was improvised thing. It was just me having a conversation with, I was talking to God, in my opinion, whatever. It's just my creator, I say, and I spoke out like this. I said, I don't know how to pray. But I wrote it down later on. I don't know. I will omit probably many things. It doesn't matter. I could actually even, read parts of it, but I was trying to tell how how I am at that moment, because I was at such a point of humbleness that I could do it, but it was very hard for me for the words to come out. That was just basically choking, and the tears were running. It just was very hard to come up with words. But eventually, it took me quite a while. It was a prayer that was not like some resuscitation of something that I knew before. It was coming out of me, and I was saying whatever. I said, if you're a creator, you already know before I say it. Maybe you can skip this pause when you let this video out. But
And what's the part everybody wants to see?
I guess, but not maybe when I take so much time and then I take my pause as well. At this point of my life, when I spoke out, I was praying. It all boiled down to asking for truth. Yes. So I asked for truth, and I said, maybe I'm just gonna look at the text that the prayer was about. Do you mind?
No.
And I will read from it a little bit because it's easier for me. You will hear. I hope because I didn't make any of this up. It was at the time that I made this prayer, and my voice is breaking, but um, it was a real one now. That I didn't pray before. I had maybe this is the fourth time in 3 decades that I've had this moment of humbleness that it was natural. It was not something, oh, I wish, please God, send me, make my life better or something. No, I think I'm, uh, I'm too stubborn, maybe, and I'm a bit more proud than that. And it's just, it wasn't my thing, and I'm getting my word back. Okay. So at this time, I was in a crushing hopelessness. And it took me the whole prayer period. I'm glad nobody interrupted, but I eventually, like, it took more than a half hour, I think, when I was just speaking out word, taking word out of me, one by one. So this is how it went. I wrote down as I remembered. It was for some time that I was able to piece it back together eventually. So more or less, but it's nothing is added. That I was speaking like this. I'm single. I'm getting old. Probably won't have any children. I don't have friends. My family relations suck. I don't have career. I wanna do things I wanna do, like grow veggies, do homestead crafts, read books, study the world, travel occasionally. I don't want to keep working for money to survive. I hate this. And this is all ridiculous. This is all madness. Or I'm mad. Yeah, I'm a brat too. I have everything, both hands, legs, a roof over my head, a family, whatever it is like. I had a great childhood in comparison to some others. Anything could be worse. I could venture into the world, do stuff, achieve things. Nobody's stopping me, and I myself getting in my own way. Why am I so unhappy? I don't want to be. I don't want to live. And I am ungrateful, like utterly and pathetic. And I am lazy, like lazy. I wasted a lot of time. I did like trivial things, not disciplined. I am not even a good person, not moral. I'm selfish. You know all that, God. And I only remember you when I'm hopeless, which happened 4 times. So nobody taught me how to pray. And I try to say what's waiting on my chest. And I'm not a believer, like, I mean, doctrine. And I cannot. I feel fake trying. So, and I cannot chant those scriptures and recitate those prayers, and I cannot believe in those theories like sincerely. But I know you exist. I know. I don't know how to refer to you, but I'm talking to you, the the creator, the one who creates and not destroys. And I want to know, not believe. And all of these things that I've been looking at, and experiencing and searching. Am I that helpless? Maybe somebody had this experience. There's something wrong with me. Am I that hopeless that I perhaps physically am not capable of understanding and figuring out things for myself? Or am I just too lazy? Is there any hope for me, God? You know what's in my thoughts and in my heart, really. I ask for real. You know, you know my thoughts before I say it. You know my true intention right now. And you know the pain is real. I know myself that I know myself that much too, that even if I'll know stuff, I'll still fall into slumber. From time to time at least. I'll I just got to know. And I must know because I don't want to live. I said, God, I'm losing it. I give me some sign that I'm not. Give me some sign that I was onto something all this time. That I was onto something, and because I compromise, I feel fear creeping in like never before. Never felt fear before. I am utterly paralyzed. I use the system. I work for money. I use technology. I'm not self-sufficient. I have not sacrificed my life for a noble cause. I've witnessed evil and did nothing about it. Worldwide, I mean, like, I knew about children's, getting slaughtered and stuff like that. But I didn't do like some people, just go out there, completely change their lives. I'm lazy and I'm proud. I'm not humble, not flexible or generous in terms of sparing my time or, going out of my way completely for others. I don't love people as sincerely as I should. And Alan does reminded me, to be forgiving to others. It's not their fault. People are like, they're it's not their fault that they are that I cannot, have friends and talk about things and sort these things out and be understood. And I said, I am the problem, but I'm yet still asking for the truth for myself on, conditions like even if I have to relearn everything I knew about the world and the reality up so far, rip it all out of me, even if I have no friends left. And at that point, I kind of already didn't. There were some faint connections I had, but when I was, even said, even if I would lose all the joy of life, finding out things, even if it would destroy me, I want. And I was looking for the word, and I said, I want wisdom, and I want freedom of knowing. And I'm almost done here. I need, I say, a translator. Being young and still craving the things of this world, like that usually only with money I can buy, and like traveling and whatever, decorating my room or trying out foods and buying stuff and experiences. And I crave, I say, I know, I still crave these things of this world like that. And I have met special people in my life with these special gifts. I have traveled the world and saw things. I knew I was looking at something and I couldn't tell what was it, what was hidden there. what does it mean? How my experience and the rest of all this fit in the big picture? And I had in mind all kinds of things, all the all kinds of things, like spiritual even. Maybe we will not continue this conversation that long, but there were so many things. I knew I was not putting into the prayer because I couldn't anymore. The thoughts were mixing up and running faster, and the words were not coming out. And I thought, anyway, you know what I mean. You know, even the things I don't say in words. And I said, there must be somebody who figured it out. Not everything, because it's impossible, for one person, but the most. And how to blend all of this. I like spiritual and material and experiences into something like a realistic. And I'm not making this up. This is what I was uttering out of me, trying to formulate what I wish as my last resort. And I said, someone who could translate it into something realistic and systemic in a wise way. I always admired wise people. I wanted to become one of them. That's why I was like so interested in so many things. Like I thought, the more I gather, the more I travel, maybe like I will be this. I don't have to grow old, to become one of those wise people, that just, it's not intelligence, it's something else. It's not being smart. There's the wisdom is something else. And I was still also saying that there must be a reason why I'm even interested in any of this. Like many people are not. Am I delusional? Am I making myself mentally ill, perhaps? The devil got to me. I know he's out there. Certainly was around. Or is it the path of the Christian way? Or am I still not completely worthless? Can there something be done with me? Some use? Can I comprehend some of it at law? That, that would satisfy me. Because I'm stupid and I needed a translator, I say. Someone who would help me, help myself for real. So I would be informed and could move on by myself. On a principle, like someone would teach me how to fish. Not give me, like fish. And someone without a personal agenda, like profit or programming in certain direction. Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of wasting my time on any of this. As I told you, there was time when I stopped reading. Even watching movies and listening to other people, and I even couldn't listen to music. Everything was so irritating. So I asked someone who's wise, a hermit. Someone could explain and walk me through, and push all like the data I can carry to the right corners of my mind. Someone who cares for me. Because I know you care for me, God, the Creator. I know I'm ungrateful. I have everything. I always need more. You know me. You truly know me. You know I'm lazy and slow and impatient. But you know my true heart's desire and frustration as well. The things I cannot put in words and don't know how. I'm voiceless. I can barely talk right now. If I'm not, it's still not useless entirely. Send me somebody. I wish. So I finished this in my room. Even physically, I was like this all the time, crouched. It was not like I was open there and expressing it. It's just like almost uttering it, just right there, underneath me. And we let it out there. It was honest. I did feel some kind of relief, but I already spent so much time like this that I was just caved in and I don't know, unrecognizable. You saw me in the conversation in the beginning. I'm like cheerful and stuff. This is more me, more natural. But my mother also was noticing this change, but she didn't know how to approach, and I couldn't say anything. And most of the time, I wish she wouldn't even ask because I could not utter a sentence complete because my mind was like firing in all directions out everything about my life from the past, and all the signs and many things and data, and all the closed, all the walls I've hit up so far, during my research, even the lazy research. And I let it go. And I don't really remember what I did that day, but I think the next day I had a routine up till then. It was just basically the same thing over and over and over. I would sit down and I open my computer. I have something playing in the background. Maybe I'm doing something uh, insignificant, just on the table and it's playing in the background, and some podcasts usually. And there was one Lithuanian channel I discovered that was new then, was talking about, it was a different, like I only listened to it because I recognized in the voice that the man had different things to share. It was not like you always hear like it's something in the voice when people talk in the radio shows. Usually, the host, you can feel such a big difference when Alan speaks and when a radio host speaks. It doesn't matter if he's a bit more like better quality. They're always more cheerful in some way. Like they talk about serious things, but it's not something's missing there, like and Alan was so grounding. So something similar was with this guy. He was talking, especially if he was talking about his own experience, and I took interest in that because always I was looking out there, in Lithuania, it was just now catching up. A lot of the things that are coming that already happened in America way ago, and even in many countries in Europe. In Lithuania, we were always behind, so I wasn't really focusing my attention here, and it was a little bit of a shock that everything was changing face so fast during the pandemic, and during when the Ukraine thing came. That's why I was disturbed because I thought so many agendas are coming here like, right now, like no filter on. Nobody's noticing. Sorry, that's coming out. But I thought we had time, like I thought this will come here eventually, but not so fast. Like, and it did come. It came very fast. A lot of the things. I'm sorry, I can't be specific right now. But even like LGBT things, we are quite conservative country. Things like that. We even had Black Lives Matter and parade when my nation, the whole country is basically like more than 95% white, and just a couple of people, are like maybe like they're gypsies or gypsy minorities or mixed race something. I don't know. It's just I didn't even in my lifetime. It was a long time that I didn't see a color people of a color until I went abroad. I didn't know many things. What the drag queen when I was 21, I learned it when I went to Mexico. Things like that. It's like just different experience. So I thought, and when it started to come here, people were like bending the knee, just seemed like, why? It's so fast. What is this? Like, why so fast? And I felt this unease that there's not enough time. What's going on. That's why I guess it also was a breaking point. I didn't know like what am I supposed to do now, and it doesn't help when the house inside also that you're living in is shaking. Foundations of the relationships are shaking here. Wasn't helping. Um, Another crisis. And so this channel that I came across, the guy was talking about his experience as an immigrant in America, and he was at that time when the Twin Towers fell, and I was listening to him about those kind of things. And I'm doing my own things. One that the other day, I think it was exactly the other day, I'm doing my own things, and as he was talking and talking, and I'm half, passively listening, he he said a quote, and he was like, Alan Watts, and I stopped what I was doing, and I'm sorry I don't remember what the quote was about. But I stopped the video. I'm like, I came back and thought, I never heard Alan Watts, because I was, when I, in my time of like searching philosophies and looking up the religions, I came across Alan Watts, and I feel like, it's not the stuff that he talks about. It's just, it was some sort of short quote, and I don't remember exactly what it was. Sorry. And I couldn't find, because I think the video got deleted. There was lots of censorship here going in Lithuania as well. And I cannot go back to it, but it didn't matter at that time, because immediately after that, it was like, in the time when I was making a prayer, I asked also, if I get this person, if I get somebody sent some help, that I would instantly recognize it. Like, as stupid as I am, I would know. I would know it. And at that moment, I I I got a feeling, and I just profound. And I went into it, and I was like, can't be that Alan Watts said it. Just did it, and I couldn't find it, and I was researching in different ways, and I don't know how, but like, because Alan Watts doesn't pop out easily, right? It's very suppressed. So he eventually I found him, and it was videos on YouTube. And I cannot say now the order how I went, but I went into it very quickly. Like, I listened to one thing, it
That
didn't pop
that's
up.
it. That's was my experience too, where I found him on Red Ice Radio, but I just listened from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing,
Yeah.
just one after another.
And this funny thing also later on, I found out. So within, I was also about a few days into, I was supposed to leave also to Switzerland. And at that time was also a breaking point when I felt I don't want to do this anymore. Like, not because I don't like the job, but I don't like the cycle, that because I'm going there for financial reasons this time, purely, mostly. Before it was like summer camp for me, like, and money was like just an additional, extra benefit. But now this was like a burden, and I didn't want it. And it's not like I'm some child that, you know, that doesn't want to be in the system, doesn't want to work. But there are things, I have to help support my family. We're building this thing. Crisis, as Alan says, you can only handle so much at once. And I had all these things in my head that I was carrying. Yeah, like this part of my body was so heavy. Like, I don't know, it felt like I had like a extra layer, like squeezing around. Very different feeling. So, but that I heard the quote and I started researching, found out listened to one thing, maybe three things I've listened, and I finally got a mention of that he has a website. And then I found Alan's website very fast, like maybe within 3 days. I already was writing to you. I want to order the books, and I did that. I wrote you before I was leaving, and I unfortunately I gave my address, the home where I'm here, and you sent it to Lithuania, and I was already going to Switzerland, so I had it
What
resent.
I don't remember the time that was. Was
No,
that
it was 2023, and I wrote you on March 3rd. I looked it up today
wow.
because I wanted to remember also, like if you ever asked me, if I was like, yeah, it was a couple of years ago, right? And everything at the last minute. But
It's so weird too because I feel like we've been back and forth for so much longer than that. You know what I mean? I mean, if you would have told me it was 2021, I would have gone, "Oh, okay," because I feel like I've known you.
yes, I'm quite recent to Alan in comparison, and I'm still catching up on a lot of material. I love listening. It's my um, I don't need I don't need two people to talk to. It's good. I just play an Alan and I feel sane. I feel sane. You have no idea what was happening to me in the first at least half year. It's good that I went to Switzerland eventually because I had something to do physically. It's not good for me to stay long, not do anything and be contained in one place and with my ideas. Not good. But I had something to do in fresh air outside. So I think I mentioned to you that you invited me also to do something for his to mention something, about Alan, how he influenced, but I just couldn't tell you that time how, what, like, look, we're having this conversation, it's so long. You see, like, it was mad, mad, mad. And so many details I'm also missing out how it went. It was just, and I was listening to his talks, and first it was radio shows. I didn't discover actually that he had these blurbs until later, and I went kind of consistently, with the radio shows, and I was like listening, and I was annoyed when people don't let him talk. Like, stop it, just stop it. But I many times I would just stop in my tracks, whatever I was doing. It was just like, because the phone was playing out loud, and usually I cannot have the earphones. I would play it out loud, and I would work alone somewhere, maybe in the tunnel or whatever, in this one farm, and usually alone. So um, I would play it. I have it talking, and I would be like, and like I would just stop in my tracks and just open my mouth, and as if he was all my life watching me. I have so many things to point out about that, but I felt very understood. And I don't know how, if somebody had this experience, but when you're understood, it's, it took so much out of my anxiety and lifted me up, basically, and um, put me back in my tracks and made me realize I didn't drive myself to madness, because I was contemplating, like, really, am I, like, how far stretched are my ideas, because I can really stretch out. I really, really went to all, like, I can do extremes. It doesn't bother me, even if it was true, like, it might be, but I just had too many of them. And some just were flawed, there were flawed things there. And he was doing that thing, and that's why the prayer come in. I felt like I needed to tell you exactly how it went, because maybe some people don't believe in whatever. You can call it miracles, you can call it your synchronicities, you can call it all, God, universe, creator, anything. Sometimes, at least in my life, there were instances where I thought, maybe because I don't know too much, that's what was driving me. These instances that I was thinking, like, it's just as if they put their shoulder on the hand on my shoulder. They were carrying me through life. And only later, when I look back, can piece things together because I can see them now, like a little bit in the retrospective. Because when you're in that moment experiencing them, it's so maybe profound or so concentrated, the emotions and everything, that you just too much into it, and you don't see it from the sides, as well as some time has passed, and later you look back on it. And I had when Alan were I would hear Alan talking on the shows, and the things he was mentioning, I would have literally flashbacks all the time of the things where I said I would look at something, and I look at it and I know I'm looking at something, and he would shed a light, and I'm like, oh, that's why. But why would I look at it, and I think and have the feelings, because I had some awakening on intuitions in my life in the fifth grade, which, yes, there were things like that, that just made me stumble about something in the life, and I just wouldn't know what to do about it. And I would be led circles even if I try to research. You know how it is, like all the information out there they say it's esoteric secrets, but it's all exoteric. And and yeah, you need to do different, you need to read actual real good books, which I didn't know that they were out there. By the time I was fed up with New Age, but I thought that I will never find anything out there. There's not, it can't be. Like, the government wouldn't let it be there, like somebody would let it be. You couldn't read about this. It must be it's secret, it must be secrets. But he was mentioning many things that they were brought to my consciousness again, exactly the things that he was mentioning. I had experienced them, and it's just he made me feel very human.
You're
Yeah,
you that's a pretty clear example to me of an answered prayer.
yeah, and that's why I wrote it down and thought I will have to at some point. If I make a real history video, I'll have to tell it, even though I'm exposing myself a lot, but because you would sometimes talk with somebody, about some synchronicity, and you also introduced your life, maybe somebody had a dream, and you went on this adventure, and who knows how it will be continued. I'm waiting for it, but for me, it's more, the world out there is more fiction than this. I
Hmm.
don't demand too much of it.
Absolutely.
It can,
We will talk again maybe when I have to go. I'm sad about
yes,
that. But
I'm sorry.
no, I have to go and print up a couple of copies of Alan's books and send them out, which is always nice to get an order. And I've had a couple this week, and I promised that they would go out today. So I have to be a woman of my word and get them in the mail. But I would like to talk to you more about the thing that happened to when you were in the fifth grade, these experiences and the other um, what you would just call spiritual, or you didn't have the words for it. Those are always interesting conversations to me.
Yeah,
And then just find out. Now you sent me some video. I'm going to scrounge for it. I think I still have it in the mail of just walking through the golden flowers there at the farm.
yeah,
Your grandparents, I'll now call it your farm, but that if there's anything, and you're also getting ready to take off on another trip tomorrow to Switzerland, so I don't want to put any pressure on you, but if this won't get put up for like 3 more weeks now. So if you send me some pictures
yeah.
that illustrate any, from Japan or anything, then I'll add these. I'll fill in the video as I make it. I mean, it should be enough for people that they're looking at your face and they're looking at mine, but just in case they want a few little extras, I'll give it to them.
Um,
I really appreciate you. Um,
Thank you. You let me talk so much.
yeah.
Really.
Oh, I came up with a title for it. I usually don't until I'm working on editing it, but I think that this one is to be titled Sigrida's Prayer for Truth and Wisdom.
Okay, I like that. Can be also Siggy, but it's or Sigrida. It's fine.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think for something so important and profound, we need to use your full name.
I am very also. How to say, I don't know how the audio will come out, but I'm a bit conscious about my voice, how it translates into the audio. It's a bit. So
Oh no, it's fine. I'm sure it's
yeah.
it's beautiful, and I
Well,
have no trouble understanding you, and I think that others will find you easy to
I
listen.
will let you go. I will let you go, Melissa, and thank you because I feel like from what I've observed, so as long as we were on this journey with you and I'm on the other side of the screen, I felt like I can tell you, you would understand. I could tell you anything. It doesn't matter who's listening. It's just we could literally talk about
Well,
anything.
that's very good because I think that there is something, I guess you could say, even voyeuristic about sharing a conversation with other people. There is that, but I just got a letter from someone this morning, and I don't want to give too much away um, by sharing a personal letter, but there's somebody who is new to Alan and they're new to me. And I don't want to say much more about how they discovered Alan and they discovered my work because then it might pinpoint them. But she wrote here, and I think our conversation that we're having is a perfect example of that. She said, "Dear Melissa, I started listening to the Real History interviews you did with great joy. It's so wonderful and valuable to listen to each other. If you don't do that, you can understand little of the world. You remain completely in your own little world. By sharing experiences, we are able to grasp more of the world, whether through direct conversation or through exchanging ideas across space and time through books or with Alan through audio recordings." And then she went on to say that she'd only recently become aware of Alan's work or of mine. And I know this woman. English is not her first language. She is from another country where and now resides in yet another country. And I think that if I can share the profound impact that Alan had on my life with other people, and if I continue, if I can continue a conversation that people can have that makes them feel more human, it's a gift to the world that we participate in, that I don't really think I'm doing anything except, plugging in a microphone and a camera and facilitating that. So thank you for sharing. It's very
Thank
great.
you too.
So I am going to end the recording. This is going to um, go up on the 19th of June, and I know what's happening next week, but it's going to be the mystery episode. You have to turn in.
Well, I've got something